Hello. Day 12 of ye olde Vlogmas. Hello. Hello, hello, hello. We are halfway through Vlogmas. Hey Rach, Sue, Artie, Andrea, right? Yeah. I'm gonna have to turn that music down. I've got to figure out how to play music so that it doesn't deafen me, but you guys can still hear it. Claudia. Nice to meet you, Claudia. I will never remember that. Bad with faces, worse with names. I recognise handles. I just put... I've known Prairie Knitter. I've known her for... Oof, it's got to be nearly 10 years, Andrea, no? Online. And I know her in about 4 different guises. And I still can't... I still couldn't put 2 and 2 together and say, oh, Prairie Knitter, that's Andrea, until she told me the other day. Okay. Today, that music is still really loud for me. I have to figure out how to make it louder for you, but not deafening for me. Because you probably can't even hear it now. It's annoying. Hey Burgess. Sorry about the glare. Let me do that for a second. Today we're looking at this. This is the Llewellyn's 2019 Complete Astrology at a Glance Daily Planetary Guide. Produced by a few people whose names I can't pronounce and I've honestly never heard of. So... what can I say? Hey Pink. I'm a bit disappointed. I'm gonna say that. I'm a bit disappointed. I can't actually tell you why I'm disappointed. I can't quantify it. But as with most Llewellyn publications, and I have nothing against Llewellyn, okay? They do some really good stuff. If you are Wicca-centric, they're fabulous. They've got some great writers. Scott Cunningham is one of the best Wiccan writers. Mickey Mueller publishes through Llewellyn. She's fabulous. She's not Wiccan. She's just general pagan witchy type. I always have the same problem. I want to like what they do because on the surface it looks great. And every time I start looking at it, I'm like, but hang on a minute. I can tell you right off the bat, for me, as a non-American, this involves way too much maths. I'd rather use an ephemeris. To me, it's pointless. If you enjoy doing a bit of mental arithmetic now and then, and you're perhaps I know that this one is actually going to a very enthusiastic beginner. She will probably make great use of it. She will probably really enjoy it. But she's in the Netherlands, so she's going to have to do mental arithmetic to figure out the times and dates. And honestly, if you're going to do mental arithmetic to figure out the times and dates, because it's not in your time zone, why not just use an ephemeris where you've got more information? Or, use an app like Astro Gold or something, which will cost you 20 quid, last year lifetime, or as long as your app works and all that. I don't know. I'm torn. So I'm going to show you. I think for somebody in the right time zone, it's pretty good as an overview. For everybody else, it's a bit too cumbersome to bother with, I think. However, there's some useful information in it. So let me show you. It does have a beautiful cover. It does. Blue rings and 3 moons. I believe that will be Uranus. My astrology is better than my astronomy, although I have studied both. First off, and this disappoints me more than anything else, Llewellyn. Honestly, this disappoints me more than anything. Do you see that? It is a publication by an American company. It's quite a big American company now, but originally it was kind of a mom and pop cottage publication type industry. It's an American, local, Minnesota publishing house, and everything they do is printed in China. Just so you know, let's put it that way. They're so American-centric with all their time zones and everything. I honestly don't understand why they don't use at least an American printing house. But if there's printing houses in Minnesota, for goodness sake, Minnesota's huge. There's printing houses in Minnesota, exactly. Exactly. And it is, yeah, it's cheaper in China no matter what state you're in. But guess what? It's cheaper in China everywhere. Do you know why? These are not just some big American company that's trying to make a quick buck. These are marketed specifically towards the kind of new age, pagan, witchy people who, you know, care about the local economy and care about the local environment and care about Chinese slave workers, etc. It's not a great marketing ploy. Yes, come and buy all our New Age books. It's got great information and we're made in China. It doesn't sit right with me. I'm sorry. It's my probably unpopular opinion, but I honestly don't care. You know, they could get this printed. They could get this printed through Amazon.com, for heaven's sake, and it would at least be printed in the country that it's being shipped from. And it would be about the same quality, because Amazon's printing is rubbish. Anyway, that aside, I don't buy these, and the reason I don't buy them is because of this. I hate spiral-bound publications. I don't generally buy Llewellyn books anyway, but now that I know that they're printed in China and not even in the US, probably won't buy many more. 2018 end of the year, 2019, 2020 up to August. So, general planner. It's basically half a book, a bit of an ephemeris, and hey Thalia. Yeah, it's half a book, a bit of an ephemeris, and a planner. Oh, I'm trying not to. I don't know why, because I'm usually honest. Why am I being overly nice to Llewellyn? I don't know, because they're so well known that we, you know, I don't like ribbing on our own. You know, they are the publishers of New Age books, but the fact that it's made in China has annoyed me more than anything else. I'm sorry, it has. So it's astrology. It's a daily astrology calendar. So the first half of the book is useful information for the year, and the second half of the book is a planner. Okay, and then at the back we've got a bit of an ephemeris, and then we've got the most complicated change of time zones I have ever seen in my entire life. I'm going to show you because it's laughable. The ephemeris is basic. This is $12.99 US dollars, $16.99 Canadian. Hey Foxy, nice to see you. The stuff I have is printed in Thailand, but it's an American New York publishing house. Yeah, which is fair enough. Thailand's working laws are quite considerably better than the communist bloc. I have nothing against using non-local or out of the country printing and stuff like that. It just annoys me that it's printed in China. Of all places it could be printed, it's printed in China by an American company. Anyway, let me get off that soapbox because it's annoying me just talking about it. Anyway, so it starts off with talking about horoscopes. We all know how I feel about horoscopes, so we'll skip that part. It tells you just enough information to confuse you, and then it tells you all about what the planets mean. Now, the overall writing of what the planets mean, this is pretty good. As a general, and I'm thinking in terms of who it's going to. It's going to Risha. She's new to all this. She could do with just something where she can quickly have a look at what it means, read up on it, etc., etc. But it's not enough information to be useful. It's not going to be personal information. So if she wants to do any personal information, she's going to have to do extra stuff anyway. So this is not really anything you couldn't just get off the internet. You can just look it up. You can just learn it. There are better ways of getting this information. If you're using this book as it's intended, you don't need this information. And if you don't know this information, this book isn't going to help you. Okay, here's my thing. As an astrologer, here's my thing. If you want to dabble, that's fine. But just being handed information and told this is what this means, without questioning it or using it in any way or finding out for yourself, is not useful. This is what I was talking about when you create your Book of Shadows. It would be so tempting for a beginner to either religiously copy out this into a beautifully appointed Book of Shadows page or bullet point it or whatever and say, right, I know all about Saturn now. No, you don't. No, you don't. There's some useful information, but it's not enough to be useful. And for those of us who can already do this, you don't need it. We already know it. And I don't mean that in a braggy way. Ooh, look at me, I know everything. I mean, like, the signs, the planets, and all that kind of stuff. It's the first thing you, it's like weeks 1 to 5 in astrology of the first thing you ever do. And from then on, you are constantly learning more and more and more and more and more about all of those things. I learned something new about the moon being void, the moon's void of course the other day that I didn't know. I've been doing this for almost 30 years. So, I don't know, it's, just review the book. Let's just review the book. How about that? I'm going to get in trouble if I keep... Well, I'm not going to get in trouble. People will moan at me. But I don't really care. So, I don't know why I'm feeling like this towards the book. I really did want to like it, but I don't. Polarities. Qualities. Elements. Let me explain this in terms of elements, okay? If that section there is enough to explain to you how elements in astrology work, you don't need it. You already know it. And if you're an astrologer, you don't need that because you already know it. So what's the point? I don't know. Honestly, I think they would have been better leaving out the stuff at the beginning. Other than, there's a couple of useful articles which are interesting. Articles are always interesting, but this stuff, you know, it's right up there with drawing books like what is a pencil? You know, people know what a pencil is. Just tell them to grab a pencil and a piece of paper and start drawing, for goodness sake. You don't need this. Houses. I'm just going to skip through this. Aspects and transits. Retrograde planets. See, it covers transits, but it doesn't cover returns. Retrograde planets. Void of course moons. Moon's influence. Now, the section on the moon is actually quite good because it goes through the signs. It goes through the moon in each sign. Now, if you do a lot of lunar astrology, this stuff, there's so much of it, it's kind of hard to remember. So having a quick little guide like this is actually useful. So I'll give them a plus point for that. The moon section is good. Then it's got the eclipse dates. Again, useful, but you can get that off the internet. 2019 retrograde planets. This is possibly, this thing here, this is possibly the most useful page in the entire book. Because it shows you very clearly when the retrogrades are and when the most retrograde planets are happening. So that July Mercury retrograde also has Jupiter retrograde, Saturn retrograde, Uranus, oh, let's see, a month and a half. It might be stationing. It might be stationing at that point, so that might be relevant. Neptune and Pluto. So you got 5 retrograde planets all at the same time. Last year was worse. We had 6 retrogrades and a blood moon. So it's useful to see that information. That is great. So we're all right. We're up to page 31 and we've got a couple of useful pages and a really useful chart. Planetary phenomena. It's impossible to say the word phenomena and not think of the Muppets. Right? Phenomena. Do, 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 do. Phenomena. Do, 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 do. Information on Uranus and Neptune assumes the use of a telescope. Blah, 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 provided by this, that and the other. Astronomical phenomena for the year. United Kingdom Hydrographic Office. United States Naval Observatory, etc., etc. Times are in universal time and must be converted to your local time. See the world map of time zones on page 191. We'll get to that in a second. Planets visible in the morning and evening. That depends where you are. So, I guess if you live in Minnesota or the surrounding area, that's useful. An overview of 2019. Again, if you look at this information, these charts should tell you this information. You shouldn't need somebody to interpret it for you if you are into astrology. If you are just a beginner, it gives you a very blinkered view of what this stuff means. I guess it's handy as a reference. Honestly, the lunar information in this is better than anything else because it's got the supermoons and stuff in there. Hotspots in 2019. Hotspots. Again, very subjective. A Venus-Jupiter conjunction on January the 22nd. Oh, happy day. Because Cafe Astrology, people. Go on Cafe Astrology, look up the months and the year that you want, and it will give you this for the whole month. And you can pick and choose what information you want to use. Then it's broken the year down into, what is this, weeks? 1st to the 6th, 7th to the 13th. It's January the 1st on a Monday or a Tuesday. If so, then this would be weekly breakdowns. I don't know what to say about this, so I'm just going to skip it because it's basically Russell Grant on the telly telling you, oh, this week so-and-so is moving into Capricorn and it's going to have an aspect to this planet over here. And that means that, ooh, and it doesn't mean anything in an overview like that. It really doesn't tell you anything. This is good. This is the bit where we're up to the articles. Now, the articles are good. This is one about finding opportunity periods, finding times based on your own chart and based on overall transits when there may be additional opportunities. When you really want to look for those doors that are opening. Again, if you didn't listen to, if you didn't listen to yesterday's chat about Book of Shadows, I'm skipping my views on how we use this stuff, but I don't use it as a fortune telling guide. That's not what it is. It's not to tell you future. Horoscopes are crap. This is for channeling subconscious energies and working with what's already hanging out at the back of your mind and bringing it forward in a useful way. This is a good article. Tells you about, you know, when to look for which aspects are going to be stressful or easier, which aspects are about opportunity, when is an aspect over. So these parts, very good. It talks about the using the balsamic moon period and stuff. A business guide. Oh my goodness me. 4 lines over a page of business guide. Employment and promotion. Choose a day when your sun is favourably aspected or the moon is in your 10th house. Good aspects of Venus and Jupiter are beneficial. Which tells you what exactly? Calendar pages. So basically, all of this now is now on calendar pages. How to use your calendar pages. So there's a symbol key which, if you need to look any of that up, you're an astrological beginner, because this symbol key is the first thing you learn. And if you're a beginner, you're not going to be able to use the information that's in here. Because look at it. As a planner, for a start, it sucks unless you've got really tiny writing. I'm known, or was known, for having the tiniest writing in the world, and I couldn't use this. So unless you are really sparse with your writing, or literally just using it as a... Maybe if you're looking up your own chart and comparing it to this and looking for personal aspects, you might be able to highlight the aspects that are going to be relevant and make notes about them here and why that, like what they aspect. So your personal chart information over here and what it relates to over here. And then you'd need another book to write about why that aspect's important. The times are in Eastern time with Pacific time in bold. So if you live anywhere other than the Eastern Seaboard, you're going to have to work out the times. So let's see how we do that, shall we? If you're drinking coffee, put it down. Do we have a section in the back that tells you what the differences are from GMT and how to fix it, how to figure that out? I would have thought that the most logical thing for this would have been to use Greenwich Mean Time, because that's what ephemerises are printed in. That's what astrologers use, Greenwich Mean Time, also known as Zulu time or military time. And then have a list at the back of the plus and minus, because that's easy then. You're constantly just looking at dates and going, oh yeah, well, you know, Eastern Standard or Pacific Standard is -5. So I can figure that out. Everybody knows what their difference from... it's not your fault, Andrea. They didn't think about time zones. It's not you. They haven't thought about time zones. They have thought specifically about people who are on the Eastern Seaboard. They haven't thought about astrologers who use Greenwich Mean Time. They haven't thought about the rest of the world and the United States. They've just thought about the Eastern Seaboard. That's it. And then they've created a really complicated way of working out what your time zone difference is. Now, time zones do my head in anyway. I always have to ask people. I've roughly got it so that if I go that way across the map, that side of America is 5, and that side of America is 8, and Arizona I don't have to worry about. That's pretty much the limit of my time zone abilities. I can't do it. I can't do dates, I can't do numbers, I can't do maths. I'm not interested in learning it. I just know that Australia is at night time when we're in the day and their seasons are really messed up. I have to ask the Australians all the time, are you getting up or are you going to bed? Because I don't know. Let's work out for the UK what this difference is. I have a friend in Pennsylvania, so I happen to know that it's 5 hours difference. But let's see if we can work out what it is from here. Eastern Standard Time equals Universal Time, Greenwich Mean Time, plus or minus the value from the table. So we've already done a plus or minus from Universal Greenwich Mean Time in order to get to Standard Time, Eastern Standard Time. And now you've got to do another jiggery pokery to get back to where you needed to be when you could have just done it from Greenwich Mean Time in the first place. So, what zone are you in? Well, there's lots of letters here, and there's subtract or add this, that, and the other. Here's now the world is already split into time zones, okay? The whole world is already split into time zones. Let me see if I can focus that any better. I've got an extra camera now, and I don't know if the focus is in the right camera, but we'll try. It is! Oh my word. Just for once it works. Okay, here we go. So the world that is already split up into time zones, they have re-split up into time zones, labelled A to Z. They at least had the wherewithal to say, okay, we'll put Z at 0, Z equals Zulu time. So at least they managed to get that much. So you have to find where you are on the map and then work it out. But, you know, this bit here, I don't know where that is. It's, what's that? Is that Canada? Up there. I don't know what area of Canada that is. This is Vancouver kind of area, Alaska kind of cold places. I don't know where the T bit is, but the T is most of the U and the V, because guess what? That's all one time zone. I've never seen anything worse than this. They could have just had standard time zones and said, look, we're putting everything in GMT. Here's the standard time zones from GMT. Look up your standard time zone, because most people know what time zone they're in. Plus or minus how many hours. And then you've got some areas, you've got K and you've got K star. I wonder what K and K star means. So K is 10 hours and K star is 10.5 hours. I'm not an expert on time zones, and especially not an expert on time zones in large areas like Russia or Canada or the United States. But do you actually use half hours in time zones? And what the hell happens when you get to daylight savings time? Because not everybody uses daylight savings time. I don't know if they've assumed daylight savings time was without marking it. Yeah, exactly. Is the summer... When does daylight savings time start on the eastern seaboard? It's usually the end of March, isn't it? Somewhere around there. End of March, beginning of April. Somewhere around Easter, usually. I usually work it out by looking up when ours is, and then theirs is either a week after or a week before. So I'm pretty sure ours changes on the 31st of March next year, because it's always the last Sunday in March. So have we got anything here that indicates daylight savings time has started anywhere? Eastern time plain. East Pacific time bold. I'm just checking that it hasn't changed it down here. Eastern time. Eastern time. So if we get out of I keep calling it British summertime, I don't mean it. Out of daylight savings time. November wouldn't be in daylight savings time. Still Eastern time. Yeah, DST is always a different day to everybody else. I think America, Australia and the UK are the same days. And then America and Canada are the same days. I think, but I'm not sure. The US doesn't use half hours, but I think there are some in Australia. There probably are some in Australia, but honestly, most of Australia isn't actually occupied by the kind of people who would use a book like this. So, you know, there's a huge amount of non-coastal area in Australia that is not actually inhabited by anything much more than animals. And I doubt that animals use half hours. Some of the farmers probably do, or the ranchers or whatever. Are they herders, ranchers? I don't know what they're called in Australia, actually. What are people who you look after really, really big expanses of land with animals in Australia? March 10th, 2019 is the first day of daylight savings time in Minnesota. Right, okay, so March 10th. Oh, it does say daylight savings time begins at 2 AM. Okay. But does that now mean all these are in daylight savings time? Because it still says Eastern time plain there. Shouldn't it say... What's daylight savings time in Eastern? What's it called? DST. Instead of EST, is that right? So if it says EST there, why doesn't it say DST there? And if you're going to ignore your own daylight savings time, why aren't you just using GMT? Yeah, it's written in, but are they actually using it? It doesn't actually tell you. Because that page should be DST and it still says Eastern Standard. Or Eastern Time, which is Eastern Standard Time, isn't it? So this is really confusing. Dear people writing astrology books, just use GMT like the flipping ephemerists do. It's easier for everybody. If you've got to do mental arithmetic to work out your time zone, you might as well do it from GMT, which is easier than trying to do it via another time zone and a completely different way of working in time zones. I mean, what is this? The planner bits are basically just the aspects or the transits for that day, which you can get those from a free app. I've got several apps that I use on my phone that tell me what the lunar phases are, gives me this information on a daily basis. If you're doing astrology at the point where you're doing charts and stuff, you've probably already got software. And to be honest, for the price of this, you'd be better off spending the $20 on something like Astro Gold, or even $100 on something like Solarfire, or the web version of Astro Gold, which will last you indefinitely, rather than just to the end of the year. Damn it, Llewellyn, I wanted to like this. Okay, it's got additional notes. I'm just reading these additional notes. OP, I don't know what OP means. Original poster, usually, but I don't know what. After Moon squares Pluto until void of course Moon, wait 2 hours after the square. For what? You see what I mean about giving you really useful information that doesn't help you? After the Moon squares Pluto until the void of course Moon, wait 2 hours after the square. The Moon is balsamic, Mercury is slow, okay for finishing up projects. Started prior to October the 25th. Opportunity periods, thank you, okay. So this relates back to that article that he was talking about. Okay. It's still not very useful though, is it? Wait for 2 hours. Just arbitrarily wait for 2 hours. No particular reason, just wait for 2 hours. Well, the moon's balsamic and Mercury is very slow. So for 2 hours, you just sit and twiddle your thumbs? What? I don't know. Oh, there are so many more useful ways of doing this. This had so much potential and they've just wrecked it. Honestly. And then you've got an ephemeris table. Now the ephemeris tables are useful. They're nicely laid out. They're easy to read. I like it. However, for just over double the price of this, you could get an ephemeris book that lasts for the entirety of the 21st century. And you can print these PDFs off from Cafe Astrology online for nothing. Why put them in here? They don't serve any purpose. If you use an ephemeris and you understand what an ephemeris is and why it's useful, this is not enough information. And if you're a beginner, you just look at this and go, well, what the hell is that? I don't know. I'm going to say, if you're Eastern Seaboard, and therefore don't have to do any of the ridiculousness that is all this craziness. Rising and setting signs and planetary hours. Again, it's only useful if you're in the Eastern Seaboard. A blank horoscope chart. It's always handy. And an address book. This had so much potential. This could have been so much better. It could have been so useful. And it's just not. I think if you're Eastern Seaboard and you like to dabble in astrology because You know, I can see why Andrea likes it. Andrea dabbles in astrology. She does bits here and there. She's a busy lady. She doesn't have time to keep going and looking things up, and she's not that into astrology anyway. I guess it's useful for her because she can see straight away what's available. She understands her own chart, so she can compare it to her own chart. She'd be better off doing it from scratch, but she doesn't have that kind of time. And she's in the Eastern Seaboard. It's the right time zone for her. So, in that sense, I can understand why she likes it. You're only 1 hour off the time zone. So, you literally probably do it all the time, because if you travel an hour away, you already change time zones anyway. So, you probably do it just going to a big city to shop sometimes. It's not unusual to cross state lines and have to change time zones in America. I get that. That's, you know, I can understand why Andrea likes it. She is basically the person that the original cottage publishing book of this was made for. I think the problem is that they just keep churning out the same format, instead of looking at it and saying, well, okay, this is okay for the locals, but we really need to update our game and have one that's more general. 1 second, I have to restart my Christmas music, otherwise it will go to a non-authorised channel. I think... Oh. I don't know. I can't summarise this. I can't, because... Will you shush? What do you think of it? What do you think of it, Boo? Tell us. What do you think? Would you use this book? Okay. That's what Scooby thinks of it. Yes. Good boy. I'm really, really annoyed because, like I say, I wanted to like this. I wanted it to be useful. I wanted it to be the kind of information that my students who are starting astrology, they understand bits and pieces, some are more advanced than others. It would have been a good baseline to say, okay, well, if you've all got this information, I can take it from there and add more to it. So read this little section, boom, you're done for this week. Now let's work out how that applies to you and use this as a jumping off point. I wanted to have that, and it's just not. It's not enough for astrologers, and it's too complex for beginners with too much information and too many hoops that they have to jump through to make it useful. I think Risha will be able to use it because we do astrology. I do cover the bases. It will be handy for her to have notes, that she doesn't have to make notes or whatever. She can read up on what we're going to do in advance and use it as part of her research. But if I said, okay, we're going to do a week of astrology for the 18th to the 24th, you need to go off and do some research. Here are some questions to guide you on what you should be looking up. And all she read was that for the entire week. She's not going to benefit. There's no benefit to her whatsoever. No benefit. That's what I'm going to say. There's no benefit to it. I'm sorry, but there isn't. I can see why Andrea likes it, but honestly, I think Andrea is probably the only person I can think of who would like it. And I can only say that because I know her. There are other things, better things, sorry, back the glare. There are other things, better things to spend your money on. Yeah. As with most Llewellyn planners, it's disappointing. Disappointing. These kind of reviews always make me think of Neil Gaiman. Come here. He was once asked, what is the saddest... Will you shush? He was once asked, what is the saddest thing you can think of? And he said, disappointing tea. And that's what this is. That's exactly what this is. It's disappointing tea. Fortunately, on an up note, the other two books that I've got here are actually quite good. The herbal one especially is very good. But they're both quite good. The almanacs. I think if you're going to spend money on Llewellyn's stuff, don't bother with the planners, go for the almanacs. That's what I would say. Ignore the planners, they're no use to man nor beast. Spend your money. If you're serious about astrology, put your $12.99 towards getting a decent phone app, or save up for some decent astrology software, or make the effort to go and look for it online, because you'll get the same information and better quality. There's things like Astrovisor that are free apps that gives you the same information. I know some people are paper and pen people, and that's okay, I am too. But at the same time, if you just want information at your fingertips, why not just have information at your fingertips on your phone? Excuse me. Hey. The velociraptors need to take you into the kitchen. Hi, Brenda. The dogs... Oi! Oi, oi, oi! Dogs have just gone crazy. Sorry. It's evening walk time. Yeah. Thursday and Friday's book reviews won't be as disappointing as this one, because the other two are actually quite good, especially for beginners. They're really easy books to dip in and out of. This is kind of like a maths exercise for people who really hate maths. It's because you came in, yeah. The cover's pretty. Let's go back to that. That's what we started with, isn't it? The cover's pretty. There you go. Overall, there's better things on the market, unless you're a die-hard Llewellyn fan or a local who wants to support the local industry, which is published in China, by the way, or printed in China, by the way. There are better options. Sorry. I don't like doing down reviews. I want to do good reviews. I want to do reviews that are awesome. What apps do I recommend? Astro Gold is fantastic. Get the full edition. Don't waste your money on the cheap stuff. Spend the $20 on the full thing. Astrovisor is very good and free. iLunar, literally iLunar, L-U-N-A, is a paid for app, but it's cheap. It's a one-off payment of like, I think it's $4. How much was it, Rach? Because you just bought it on Android, didn't you? I think it's about $4. It's really good. It's really good. It's got, if you're into the lunar phases and you follow the lunar phases, it's brilliant. It's got good information in it. And I refer to it all the time. It's one of the apps that I check daily. Oh, it was £2. Okay, I think it's $4.99 then, or is it $4.99 in the iOS store? Might be $4.99 in the iOS store. But it was cheap. It's under a $5. It's under a $5 for sure. It's the kind of book that think astrology has to be complicated, was too complicated for a long time. Sorry, I don't really follow what you're saying there. That's the kind of book that... Is there a word missing in that sentence, or am I not reading it right? Sorry, I can't follow that sentence. Dyslexia, part year 1. Sorry. I get the kind of thing that you're saying, and yes, it's a book written for horoscopes people by horoscopes people. I would be interested to read this Jim Shorvan. $1.29 in the Google store. Oh right, it's come down in price then. If you're on Android, go and get iLunar in the Google store. £1.29, probably $1.99. I don't know how much it is in iOS. It's more expensive though. Astrovisor is fantastic. It's great for beginners. Just the basic standard Astrovisor free is fantastic for beginners. And if you are an advanced person, pay for the full thing. That's what I've got. I use Astrovisor and I use Astro Gold combined. So I spent maybe £30 altogether on the two. Oh, it made you think. Yes, right, okay, that makes sense. Yes. It's written by people who think that astrology needs to be dumbed down. And the first thing that happens if you dumb down astrology is it doesn't make any sense anymore. It's like saying, let's dumb down physics. Let's dumb down chemistry. If you do chemistry at GCSE, the first thing you learn at A-level is that everything you learned at GCSE isn't actually right. And once you've passed your A-level, you get to university, and the first thing they say is forget everything you've ever learned about chemistry because it's all rubbish. Because it's been watered down and dumbed down that many times, it's not useful anymore. It's the horoscope version of an astrological planner. Do you have an opinion about sidereal astrology? I don't, because I haven't looked at it. I'm interested in it. I've seen bits of it. I've seen a lot of Bernadette Brady's work on sidereal astrology. I want to look at it and find out about it and investigate it. In fact, I think my group at some point is going to be doing sidereal astrology, but we're just about to embark on horary astrology, which is going to be entertaining. The Astrovisor I got was free, yay Android. Yeah, the basic one is free, but you can upgrade to like the super duper one. But yeah, you're better off saving your money. Get yourself a really good planner that works for you. Get an app that clearly shows you transits and that allows you to look at transits versus your own chart, which is basically the only reason that transits are useful, is to look at your own chart or other people's charts or things like that and compare them and see what's actually happening. Because Mercury retrograde doesn't mean anything. All this, ooh, Mercury retrograde is bad, okay? No, it's not. If, like me, your Mercury is very strong in your chart, my Mercury is conjunct my Sun on a full moon. So it's a strong Mercury in my third house of learning. I'm a teacher. What do? I talk all day. How do I communicate? What do? I communicate. I talk about ideas. I educate people. I share thoughts and education with people. Let me put something in that so it doesn't keep reflecting. That's what I do. So for me, Mercury is important. Mercury retrograde. Oh no, Mercury retrograde. We're all going to die. Actually, Mercury retrograde for me is a great time to not be putting things out, but to sit quietly and review. It's turning inward. It's inward communication. What am I looking at now? What have I been teaching over the last 3 months? Where do I want to take that? Where have I missed bits? What do I need to revise? Where do we need to move forward? What do we need to leave behind and start something new? It's a great opportunity for me to do stuff like that. For any teacher, anybody who relies entirely on communication as their job, it's a great time to review best practice, to review the last 3 months of what you've done and what you could do over the next 3 months. You know, all that kind of stuff. But if your Mercury is not strong and it's just kind of wandering about doing nothing in particular, Mercury retrograde isn't going to really affect you. Other than, you know, if your car breaks down, you're going to go, ooh, Mercury retrograde. Which, you know, a lot of us astrologers do because we like to take the mickey. It's a good thing I'm signing up for your classes. Oh, cool. Oh, Melody, you're the one who was having trouble with this. We were deciding which group to put you in. KK sorted that out. We figured out which group to put you in. I'm not going to give any more information than that. You understand why. She was trying to figure out which group to put you in. We figured it out. Well, we figured it out till February. So we're going to put you in one group till February. And by February, we'll have figured out where you actually need to be. Where do you get a good free chart? Oh, you can go to Astrolabe. There is astrology. Damn it. Me and words, me and names. Let me have a look. Hang on. Excuse, we're going to have typing because my fantastic little keyboard here actually is a bit clacky. Okay, you can do a free natal chart on Cafe Astrology. Cafe Astrology is a one-stop shop for everything. I hope I'm looking at the camera. I have no idea. I can't see myself. Astrology, Astro Cafe, Cafe Astrology. The link is astro.cafeastrology.com/natal. They are, that's a really good place to stop. They have printable ephemeris, they have local transits, they have monthly transits, they have monthly information, they have overall information, they do synastry, all sorts of stuff. alabe.com is the one I usually recommend for beginners to just print out a chart when you don't really know what your chart means, because the information they give you at the bottom that interprets your chart is actually quite good. It's not overly belaboured, it's not overly complex, it doesn't go into specifics of, well, this aspect's this and this aspect's that. It just says, okay, your Jupiter is here. And then it gives you enough information to be able to say, okay, well, how is that linked to anything else? And you look at the chart then, you see if your Jupiter is linked to anything else, and you put 2 and 2 together. Where's the... Is it astro.com or astrology.com? I think it might be just be astrology.com. No. I'm sorry, I'm struggling to find... I'll know it when I see it. It's one of those sites that looked like it was written in the 90s. I will have to find the link for the one that's really good for more advanced people. For now, I would say start with Cafe Astrology. That is a really good one-stop shop for everything you could possibly need online. It's got printables, it's got a free chart. Get your actual chart from alabe.com, ALABE.com, and work from there. The Linda Goodman stuff is quite good as well for the basics. Linda Goodman's got a very good chunky book. It's about this big. It's like the beginning of this, but everything. Everything you could ever possibly want. So it doesn't just talk about Jupiter in Aries, it specifically tells you if you've got Jupiter in Aries and it's trine this in something else, this is how that aspect works. So it breaks everything down. If you're going to get any book, get Linda Goodman's big encyclopedia of astrology. Comes with a disc as well that you can use and to get your own chart. I did what you said we should do if we were beginners, looked up my ruling planet, and I'm a Neptune. So I've been reading a lot since then. Thank you. Excellent. Glad it's been of use. The thing is, there's a lot more to it than that. There's always a lot more to it than that. But whatever the ruling planet of your sun sign is how you are. That's just you. But then you've got things like your rising sign, which is how you appear to others. And your moon sign, which is how you feel about things and how you internalise things. You've got your ascendant and descendant, which is how you are within yourself and how others see you and how you relate to other people and how you see other people. So there's a lot more to it than that. But yeah, you can't really go wrong with finding your own sun sign and looking up your ruling planet for that sign. Although your ruling planet won't always be your sun sign's ruling planet. For instance, my ruling planet is Jupiter. Jupiter rules my entire chart. But as an Aquarian, I'm Uranus Saturn, which also fit me. I also am both of those as well. But, you know, it's complicated. Everything's complicated. But it doesn't have to be complicated. Just stick to... As soon as anything feels too complicated to be useful, step back. Too complicated to be useful. Exhibit 1. Disappointing tea. Right, that's it. I'm going to leave it there for now. Tomorrow we've got one of the almanacs. I'm not sure which one. I might do the herbal one just to make up for this thing. Because the herbal one is actually quite good. Astrology hurts your head. Yeah, some people are not meant for astrology. Some people are just don't get it and don't... It's too much. It is a very science-based kind of thing. Whereas tarot is a lot easier. It's visual, it's pictures, it's understanding basic stuff. And then you get to interpret it, which is a lot less brain work than trying to do the basics to start with and then trying to interpret what you've had to work out for yourself. Tarot is more social sciences based and astrology is more science based. Let's put it that way. Yeah, it is easy to rabbit hole in astrology. It really is. Lots of useful stuff. But if you're going to rabbit hole astrology, stick with astrology for a while. Don't try and rabbit hole anything else. Don't go, oh, I think I'll read a bit of this. Oh, I think I'll read a bit of that. You know, stick with what's directly related to you. Popped in late, have to watch the replay. Yes, you will, because I am going now. Thank you for joining me. Sorry the planner was not as exciting as I was hoping it was going to be. I will be sending this on to you, Risha, later in the week. I'm doing a post run on Thursday or Friday, so it should be with you by next week at the latest. Thanks for joining me. Halfway through Vlogmas. Can we do another 12 days? Can we get all the way through to the 24th? I think we can, because I'm enjoying the live things much more than I do trying to... I'd rather sit and talk with you and chat with you and answer questions and stuff for an hour than spend 4 hours filming a video that I've then got to spend 3.5 hours editing. What's the point in that, eh? Anyway, I really am going now. Goodbye.